final thoughts about Tribbie. Welcome back. By the time this video goes up, we would have finished pretty much everything that we have been trying to do with Tribbie for the past, I would say, 1 week. And this is going to be my final thoughts about Tribbie. Alright. The main takeaway that I have kind of split this is basically the build as well as the team. So for the team video, I think this is not representative. Alright, it's definitely not representative. It's not the end or be all. Because there's the Eidolons, there are like light cones, different people have different gears, 170 speed one. It's not the end all be all, but after looking through everything, right, we can kind of see by this right here. Team comps first. I think what Tribbie essentially does, because the end all of every single one of the tests that we have done with this is basically asking if Tribbie can replace the Harmony slot previously. That was sort of like the main takeaway. Can Tribbie replace Ruan? Can Tribbie replace Babin? Mainly these two. Some of the other supports, I think Tribbie can't really replace. So let's just tackle this question first. Who can Tribbie replace, or whether can she replace in the team comp that you yourself are using in order to determine if she's even worth the exchange? Because one thing to factor in is if you already put for a unit such as Ruan, such as Robin, why do you want to put Tribbie on top of that? Because if you're not running Sustainless, one of them is going to go. Right, you're either benching Ruan or Babin in order to slot in Tribbie, unless you do want to play Sustainless. Then I think the damage amplification is going to be something that's a completely separate topic, because every single one of these, a run with or without sustain is super different. I do think that the question of whether she replaces a unit is more like how much have you already invested in the previous team comp that you have been basically using your entire lives before you actually wanted to pull Tribbie. For example, if let's just say you are running a team like this, right? You are running a DOT team that's looking something like this. Do you think you pulling for Tribbie and you slot out Robin here, that would be a net positive or a net negative on your account progression going forward? The pros, I can see a very straightforward one, is that now you can free up Bobbin for your next team. Right, that's a pretty good pro. The cons is if you don't free up this Robin for the next team and you are building up Tribbie specifically for DOT, you might find yourself in the predicament where this slot tree could find someone that's even more synergistic. And an excellent example I can kind of see is this team right here. So in the event that you don't have Sunday, right? Let's just say you don't have Sunday, and previously you were running like Robin and like I don't know, Ting Yun, right? Let's say this was your old team, and then you want to consider yourself, okay, should I just pull Tribbie, and whether or not she can replace drastically improving the performance of a Ting Yun? I would say the answer is no. Because some units, especially a super specialized slot tree that's not as general, you would find the improvement to be much more. So you gotta ask yourself, the purpose of you pulling for this Tribbie, is it gonna be worth it? Or do you want to see if there's gonna be a more specialized team specific to the DPS that you're using most of the time? Because at the end of the day, right, you can pull for a lot of supports. You can pull for your Ruan, you can pull your Robin, you can pull for Tribbie. You pull all these supports, but there are only 4 slots in a Honkai Starbucks game. You either change the supports or you change the DPS. Because most of the time, the sustain slot, it is pretty much balanced. Huan is performing very well recently because of all the energy regeneration buffs. Avenging is the Ventry, Lingsha is Lingsha. We could even see a rise of a Luocha as well as Fuxuan. So all the sustain slots, they're more or less balanced. So you are asking yourself if Tribbie can replace the role of the generalized support or the specialized support. Me personally, I don't really think she's worth it for either case. So for example, right, if you already have a Sunday and you're running something like this, you already have this. If you were to pull for Tribbie, there's no way she's replacing Sunday for Jingyuan and user, for Jingyuan users. She's not going to replace Sunday because Sunday's value for Jingyuan is still going to be extremely high. And it's not something that Tribbie herself can straight up outplace, especially if you already have him. It is almost like a downgrade unless you are thinking about like E1 Tribbie, which is like a completely different topic that maybe we'll explore in the future because I just added it to mine. But that's going to be that. Can she replace Robin though? Can she replace Robin? I would say if you already have it, probably not that worth it. Unless you want to open up Robin for another team. Or you want to pull Tribbie, not for this team, but for maybe the Herta team. So for example, if your intention of pulling Tribbie, let's just say you put Tribbie for this slot over here, alright? And the replacement in this was either because you had a Sunday, or you had a Mimi, or you had a Bobbin. This, I would say, is gonna be quite valuable, because now Bobbin can be performing even better, even more synergy with teams like your Facials, your follow-ups, your Jingyuan Bobbins, because this opens up for more flexibility. I think in this case, Tribbie does have a pretty good value here. But if you commit to a Tribbie team with D-Herta, and the reason why I didn't want to test D-Herta with Tribbie or even Aguilera Tribbie is because their performance is very, very good right now. It is one of, if not the best teams that we can see in all of the endgame content right now, which is going to be, to no one's surprise, they are upselling the current on-battle unit with the environments to make them really, really good, right? The problem is if we pull for Tribbie in this slot and you had a Robin, do you think a Tribbie upgrade on Robin will give you more value? Or do you think Anaxa coming out, the specialized support slot coming out, would give you more value? That is the best way to answer whether you should even consider Tribbie as an upgrade in the first place. If you can get both, then no one's gonna stop you, right? This, I would say, especially if you have like a future version 3 sustained in the future, if you have the means and you cook up this team, you are pretty much good to go for, like, I would say a pretty long ass time. But I don't want to give too much because, power and everything, the environment can change. But this is most likely going to be a best in slot for a while, right, in the future when they all cook up. But if you don't have the means to pull for a dedicated support, right, a dedicated support like Sunday to, Sunday to Jingyuan, or like a Field to wrap up, right? Field to wrap up, Field to Firefly, or even like especially if you don't have the, the E2 Aircron, right? Or rather E6 Aircron, whatever, or the Jiaoqiu to Aircron. If you don't have this specialized support slot tree, then pulling for Tribbie to replace a general support slot 2 may not be the best use of your strategies. We won't talk about E1 Tribbie, we are only talking about at a baseline E0 S0, especially if you already put for units that are very general, very, very efficient at what they're doing right now. For example, like Robin, right? So that is gonna answer the question of who can she replace, who does she perform, do you think you should be pulling in the first place, and how her future outlook is gonna be. Now I kind of want to talk about the actual performance, assuming you already put Tribbie. Alright, this part of the video is, okay, you know what? You don't want to listen to all that, I pulled. What now? If you have already put Tribbie, I think from the consensus that I've tested with this, as usual, as again, this is not meant to represent like the end-all be-all of all performances in HSR, because my account is definitely not going to be the same as your account. But I think a trend of universal market, a trend that I noticed is that Tribbie has the ability to raise the DPS floor for a team more so than raising the DPS ceiling. The best way to illustrate this is Blade and Jingliu. Best point example. So what I mean by this is because Tribbie's entire kit, right, it will help units that desperately need help because their kit is so out of tune with the current new units, new toys situated in the new environment. So units like Blade, Jingliu, or even like your old 1.0 units that previously couldn't find a way to deal with the uprise, the upsurge of mob content, HP inflation, and now it takes like 5 billion years to kill mobs. I believe Tribbie would be very, very, very good here. Alright, because you basically slot her in to raise the minimum damage you're outputting, because Tribbie herself does substantial damage, which tackles a lot of the problem your old units might be suffering from because you can't deal with so many AoE, right? So for example, if you want to talk about Blade and Jingliu, they are 3 targeting. They can't really deal with the little True Storm summons that well, but because Tribbie adds on this AoE damage, you can then pop off the vulnerability, and in the future we see more bosses that like Nikador Spear, all that kind of stuff. She can help you deal with these environments a lot better than other units, such as, even in this case, Robin, Sunday, RMC, right? Because her kit functions well as like this benchmark for your old units to go above and beyond. However, if your unit was already performing exceptionally well with or without Tribbie. So let's just say the current environment for D Herda, the current environment for Aglaya against War Armor Nicanor, or even for like Firefly Super, especially if you have like E2 Acheron, E2 Firefly, E2 Face Out. If you already have a really, really good team that is stomping through with this setup, running Bubbin or even Rame, I don't think Tribbie would have made the difference required to be worth your boost. So for example, I would feel that with or without Tribbie, E2 Deal or Face Out, these kind of teams, they are probably around a 2 to 3 cycle ballpark. And it probably wouldn't have changed too much in that regard. Compared to vice versa, let's just be real, guys. If I didn't run Tribbie with Blade, I actually don't think Blade is gonna be 5 cycling this. Maybe Jade, right? Maybe we ran Jade with Blade because Jade herself is doing exceptional achievement, but that's not really a Blade showcase anymore, right? That's more like a Jade main DPS, all kind of stuff. So raising the value of your old teams because of Tribbie's benchmark DPS, I would say that is like the best value for players that are looking to you know, run them with these kind of units. Me personally, right? Me personally. A unit that is the opposite of Tribbie. Opposite of Tribbie is someone that they can't really raise up your damage floor, but rather they take your ceiling straight up to the next level. Example, Sunday synergy with Jingyuan, Jiaoqiu synergy with Acheron, or even Fugue synergy with Rebel. These are units that essentially can take your ceiling a lot higher. Oh my god. I never knew you could do that. What the fuck? You have seen HP inflation. You have seen like how they're gonna be cooking up the Flame Weaver, right? Especially the Flame Weaver. The boss is coming out. I've seen the early access review. If you don't kill the clones, the mobs, right? Units like Flame Weaver, they one-shot you. They straight up just one-shot you. And you're honestly not really left with too big of an option over here. So me personally, because of this, damage output from Tribbie is still going to be quite an important priority. Not to mention, if you run 4-piece eco, sometimes you can't even get your ultimate out time fast enough, right? The inner 2-piece, maybe if you want to run Luxaka for a little bit more like support focus, because you give your main DPS a little bit more buff, I think that's explorable. Outside the 4-piece, I don't really think there's too big of a choice to explore into 4-piece ego. 4-piece quantum, I don't see that much value because you unfortunately cannot stack the defense reduction from 4-piece quantum. Unless you are running this with a team like Pella, you're running E1 Rame, what the hell is my 4-piece quantum? Ah, okay. Yeah, you can't really stack on this defense ignore. So the 32 crit rate or 64 crit value does give you much better final DPS increase compared to basically a 10% defense. Because at this point, my build is honestly really good. It's a pretty damn good Tribbie because we all in on the crit values. So if you go for a 4-piece quantum and you can't even achieve this amount of crit value, even this crit rate on 4-piece quantum, I don't think it's too good because 70% crit rate is might as well just don't crit, alright. So that is gonna be my build for Tribbie. Signature Light Gold on E1. Maybe I do a little bit of showcase with E1 Tribbie, but I do think this thing is just way too fucking strong. And if you care about, like, if you want to use Tribbie for a long as, for example, E1 Bubbin, E1 Bubbin, E1 Tribbie, this kind of like game-changing Eidolons, don't let the mentality of, oh my god, if I were to pull for an Eidolon, I'm being out of touch, I'm unrelatable. If you think that you can stand to benefit from this E1, I feel like you can just go for it. Because what else would you be spending this pools on? Do you want to build a brand new DPS? Do you want to give it another sustain? Do you want to build for a more niche support? Ask yourself the opportunity cost of unlocking an either one. If you want it, sure. If you don't want it, that's also fine, right? But don't be too bound up by the population of the opinion. So that's pretty much gonna be it. I think with that, I will end up this video with one final note. Because the banner after Tribbie is gonna be on the anniversary banner, Castorice. Not just Castorice, Anaxa. I still don't know what to do, guys. I still genuinely don't know what to do. My days, early, I said, I think it just got released. I think 2 days back. We'll take a look. But if you're wondering on questions like, would Tribbie work with Castorice? Should you be putting Tribbie or Castorice? Should you be putting Castorice or Anaxa? Anaxa or Tribbie? Basically, any questions related to version 3.2, I would like to kind of point out an example, right? They do say that don't base future performances based on your past, based on your history. Acheron was our last anniversary unit, or specifically the anniversary banner, alongside with Bust. To this day, 1 year later, I would feel that, okay, mine is a little bit unreal. Even at a E0, maybe they might not perform that well if you just pull them as a standalone. But because it's an anniversary unit, something to consider is they are most likely gonna give them the DLC expansion. So for Jiaoqiu, the DLC expansion was bro. Right? Was bro. And to this day, Aircron can still, maybe not the best of the best of the best, because, you know, the current environment is made to shield D Herda as well as Aglaia, but she can still clear quite comfortably, especially if you downloaded their DLC. I'm not sure if a similar situation with Castorice will occur. I'm not sure how Anaxa's kit is going to be like, or even 3.3 going forward, what things are going to be, right? Ask yourself if the units that you have in your roster right now, do you stand to gain more value from the anniversary unit, or do you stand to gain more value from essentially a support that gives you the foundation for the current endgame MOC erudition based environment? Because I really personally don't think that Tribbie is like a dedicated support slot. A dedicated support slot like Sunday to Jingyuan, Jiaoqiu to Aircron. Maybe in the future she could be, but we can only make this comparison when Anaxa comes out, which is gonna be with D Herda. And then, you know, we could see if putting her doing a rerun after Castorice is better, or if you guys desperately really need this, because anniversary happens once a year. And chat, how often do we have an Aircron rerun? I think we only got one Aircron rerun, right? Okay, one rerun. Okay, one rerun only. Yeah, but I'll leave that up to you. And with that, looking forward to maybe even more stuff with E1 Tasante. Thank you so much for joining us today. See you guys on My Day's content next week. Yeah, probably next week. And then afterwards, I'm going to Japan. So very, very nice. Word of the day is going to be Pool Last. I just took 3 words that chat was saying, right? Join Twitch, join YouTube, all the best for your gacha pools. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.